Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Schools are open. Parents, guardians, have you prepared your adolescents that are pregnant and mothers for school? The government has given us national guidelines to assist with the responsibility of sending these girls back to school. Let us help to provide them with a safe, productive and friendly environment for their learning. They are still our children, living among us in our communities. Their pregnancies, becoming mothers before adulthood, affects them, their community and our nation. All children have a right to education. Now, let's take them back to school because completing their primary and secondary school education is very important to their future careers, personal development and being productive citizens of our nation. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Digital. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Digital. Digital, the way to go.
Are you going for the DFT conference? There was
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
very good morning and a warm welcome to the Mighty Drive Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karohanga. Deep apologies from the team for coming in a bit late. It's so unfortunate, but better late than never. You know, sometimes there are inconveniences or inconsistencies here and there. But as I've told you, better late than never. Good morning and welcome to this edition of the Mighty Drive Show. Allow me, guys, delve into the discussion because I don't have a lot of time. Our guest is already in studios with us. He will be joining us in a few minutes from now. But let's start off with what transpired where you were not. Obabiche byabadde jota abadolina kulegulo NRM government yabadde celebrating owange ejaguza emyaka 36 ngeweereza banna Uganda mu myaka 36 bingi be batuuseeko era bingi nabyo bebagamba mbu maybe bayinza okuba balemeseddwa okubanga babituukiriza. So omukulu Tibwabulwa Yoweri Kaguta Museveni yabadde jjo ku Kololo Independence Grounds we babadde bajaguliza this year's Liberation Days, though Liberation Day. The question is it the Liberation Day or Lucy Bane Wunyoba, Edinya Twako Sacham? That will be a topical discussion of next time. Can so can buy Tiremu, Kumami, yo, Kaguta Tipabura 7, event we are get deco, or Nakuru Gulonga, Bajabuzemia Kasatu Mukaga, Demu Nkata. Ya government ye gwangalino oba egwangalino eria Uganda bawamba enakuzo mwezi zali 26 omwezi gwali gwa Gatonya omwaka gwali 1986 mukaga twabala bavubuka abali mu nsiko abali bewagudde abali balabibwanga bannalukalala abali bayitibwa abatujju be bavaamu ne bawamba gwangalino kwe kulituusa wano wenyini weriri bintu bingi bibakoze mu gwanga lino tetusobola kubanga tuganda naye ate bintu bingi era ebiganyo okubanga bikolebwa mu myaka 36 economy baji recoveringa enguudo zo zizimbiddwa abaana bagemeddwa kugamba bintu bingi ebimu bibakoze naye ate of course oluusi twogera ku human rights paka sawa zino kwenza lukira basajja achali mabega wa mitayimbo wadde bamuwadde bail olunaku lwali lwakwosa ggulo bamuwa bail naye nawambiwa ko ate bino ebintu bizze bibeerawo nnyo omwami Sowanya namujjuka ne segirinya biche byababeerako no so kampiteko wano mu ebyayogeddwa omukulembeze w'eggwanga yayisa abantu 547 be babadde ku mukolo ogwo omwabadde ba MPs omwabadde ba dignitaries ab'enjawulo omukulu Tibawula Museveni yayogedde ku bintu bingi yakakasiza eggwanga nti no this time round obaguno omwaka tekugenda kubeera kuseka kuka agenda kubeera rude agenda kubanga pushinga chakkiririzaamu nayogera nagamba abo bannakigwanyiza abalowooza nti basobola okusabotaginga eggwanga lino tebajja kubanga basobola okubanga bakikola nagamba nabo ba government employees abadde bakolera government naye nga ate bali amuluzise ne mu lulimi abo abakolera both sides yabogeddeko n'abagamba bannange twetaaga katutandika focusinga ku banna Uganda na biki bye babeetaaga yayogeddeko ne amagye ga UPDF agali mu Congo ne yebaza President Felix Tshisekedi ono president wa DRC okubanga yamukkiriza okubanga bayingira Congo bafufuganye buli nkambi ya ADF badde tawanya banna Uganda n'aba Congo abeeyo so bine bintu ebyogeddeko nnyo yakomendinze ne newspaper ya Daily Monitor a newspaper muje tumanye yogera nnyo ku mazima ate nga yo teyimiriddeewo kubanga supportinga government omanyi munsi mubeeramu media houses nga zo zaasalawo ne gamba eno ekkiriza mu government nga mulaba UBC ate waliwo n'abamu abagamba tetukkiriza mu nkola ya government tubeerawo okuba criticizinga na kubafuna we bagenzi awakyamu so omwami Yoweri Kaguta Museveni yagambye nti Daily Monitor okufulumya article ng'ewaana ku NRM kintu kyotalaba nagamba omuntu kubadde tolaba buli lunaku wakola ekintu nga kipya oba weewuunya oba Katonda abazze byebigambo omukulu Tibawula abeyakozeseza eggulo ng'awaana omwami Mugabe eyawandiise article eyo ng'eyogera ku nkulaakulana NRM GRS mu myaka 36 nayogera ku makolero agaaliwo nga bakajja mu buyinza nayogera ku economy we yayimiridde nayogera ne NRM wetuusiza awo wetugambira mbuno oluusi journalism ono mulungi wadde mba temwagala government naye ate amazima tugogerengako so wetwogera ku mazima tekitegeeza mbu tuwagira government oba wetwogera amazima tekitegeeza nti no tukyawa government tuba twogera amazima bannamawulire kye tukolera mukulu Tibawula ye yasanyukidde Daily Monitor olunaku lw'eggulo n'agamba basinga beeyongerayo nga bakolawe bati eggwanga lino lyali badde lirungi nnyo ne article eyo okumanya yasanyuse nnyo yagijjeyo n'agisomera bannayuganda okuwulira wa NRM gyevudde ate ekyo ne kikulaga the power of a story because eno story yadde mu page ya 32 wakati eyo naye President Museveni yaginoonyeza paka n'agiwaana eno page ebadde emuwaana oba eyogera ku bintu byafunye ng'omukulembeze w'eggwanga lya Uganda. Then President Museveni era mu kujaguza emyaka 36 yeyogeddeko eri gino emikutu ejebweru omuli BBC ne Al Jazeera nabagamba nti no balekerawo okwogera ebintu nga tebabikakasa nayogera nti BBC manyo ebadde producing anyo stories nyingi ngegamba abaana bafunye embuto mu muggalo nabagamba kiki kye twali tulwanyisa mu kusooka twali tulwanyisa kufa kw'abantu twali tetulwanyisa embuto ziyinza okuba zizze yes ate kisi kye ekirungi ekisinga naye ate abaana balamu wadde bazadde naye balamu era n'agamba mbu Uganda ekuba kubanga beebaza amawanga agasinza okulwanisa ekirwadde kino ekyalumima mawuggwe balina okwebaza Uganda ng'agamba nti Uganda eno eyimiriddewo ku nsonga era yeggwanga erimu ku mawanga agataluuzinze bantu banyinagamba amawanga gafiiriddwa abantu abawera miliyoni 1 Uganda tefiiriddwa abantu basukka na 13 so omukulu Museveni n'agamba mbu luno olutalo lwalulwanya ate nga tetukkiriza COVID-19 Museveni ye olutalo luno yalulwana bulungi wadde abamu tebakkiriza mu nsonga ze abamu bagamba baatugala okumala emyaka 2 yes that's a long time naye omukulu tibwabulwa okiba kulwanyisa COVID-19 omusajja ono amulwanyisizza wadde waliwo abamu abamulemeseza gavumenti oluusi teba perfect naye ng'ekirwadde kya lumiima waggwe kyo mukkirize nange nti nno kino kyo kyafuuka lufumo wano mu ggwanga lya Uganda twakirwanyisa ne tugezaako okuba nga tukiwaana then ne Museveni yayogeddeko ku batujjwa aba ADF nga bwe mbagambye n'agamba nanno abavubuka abali mu ADF baana bato myaka 20 naye ebintu bye bakola si birungi so n'akakasa nti obana abaana oluusi yadde nga bawa advice n'abagamba nti wewe oyagala okubanga olwanisa eggwanga lya Uganda tojja kulisobola eggwanga lya Uganda likusinga amaanyi lijja kukumalawo lijja kusaanyaawo n'agamba mwogera nnyo ku bintu eby'olutalo naye mmwe temumanyi lutalo kyeki ate nga Museveni waba akugamba ekintu ekyo oluusi mba njagala nzikirize naye bano abaana bayingidde ADF baana myaka 20 be bali mu kulwanyisa be bali mu kutega obubomu mpola mpola naye bano abasajja ba Museveni balabye olutalo they know what war means. War is not something you laugh about. Iranze lunaku wano ntera nnyo okukyogerako gwe owulira nti n'abantu emitwalo 8 be baafiira mu lutalo olwaleeta Museveni gwoyinza olaba abantu mitwalo 8 ng'abantu abatono naye genda ko wali eruweera ekapeeka ojja genda olabe zi mass graves ezo olabe n'obuwanga bw'abantu that's when you accept nti muganda wange olutalo terubeera lwa kusekerasekeramu so abavubuka n'abagambako nti oba tomanyi lutalo luno lugende empola ebintu bye mweteekamu temubisobola era ate nga yadde mutuufu ebintu temubirabyeko mubiwulira buwulizi bo be baabirabako kubanga be baalu orchestrate nga be baalulwanyisa be baaluwangula nawulyako lumujje no ng'agamba twayingira Kampala nga tulinnya mirambo olooza nga tubuuka mirambo olooza tumala gagaba ntebe yaffe wetutyo so oluusi be baba baalaba byali bingi naye Kayindo Tafiire yakyogerako wano n'agamba tugenze tukubye mundu eruweero ate mwe mwagala kungula we mutaasiga mutandike na musiga kati mukungule maaso so ebyo bya Museveni byayogeddeko n'ayogera ku systems ezigenda okuyamba okwempowering abana Uganda n'agamba oboyina ekanga nnyeze ettaka making sure nti ozigabanya bulungi n'agamba ekesooka esobola obeerako intensive agriculture ate n'agamba manya crop kijosiga in which time n'agamba nti waliwo crops ezita yielding results mangu naye ate waliwo crops eziyielding mangu so n'agamba crops eziyielding mangu nga onions cabbages so oziteeka ku ekm naye n'okola intensive agriculture so n'agamba ku eka ey'okubiri osobola okuteekako farm ey'ente n'okola zero grazing ng'ayogera ku bana abatalina mataka n'agamba endala esobola okubeera nga osobola oteekako poultry milk ebyenjawulo kwegamba yayogedde ebintu bingi omwami ati bwawula Museveni ng'alinga agamba bannayuganda nti bannange twettanire nnyo okwejja mu bwavu because okwejja mu bwavu kwe kugenda okuyamba eggwanga lino okukulaakulana era President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni ng'amaliza yayogeddeko ku ababoda n'abagamba yes bade bote banna bagula wadde economy endala zonna bazigula bakyatunulamu okulaba engeri gye basobola okuba nga bagula mbana ababoda because ababoda nga mukimanyi buli wabeerawo oluusi tubeeramu ne insecurities obutayimbwa bebakubya amasasi babeera ku boda kwegamba ne insecurity etambulira nnyo ku boda zino so president yagaye bagenda noonya engeri gye basobola okuba nga baggulawo boda zino bulungi baleme kubanga ababoda high crime rate yeyongera nga webadde nakwe mabegako so Museveni yayogedde ku mirembe nayogera ku systems of leadership n'agamba free and fair elections wadde zigenda mu maaso kwegamba bintu bingi era ne economy tulina okukkiriza nti Museveni n'abantu be batira okuyita kati ba fishermen ebintu bagezezaako okubikola wadde waliwo ebikyaganye corruption respect of human rights ebintu bikyaganye and the biggest of all being the peaceful transition of power tugaba tutyo obuyinza mu ngeri y'emirembe so byebyo ebintu bye tulina okuba nga tutunulamu so byebyo President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni byayogeddeko olunaku lw'eggulo era NRM ewoziza gigi emyaka 36 weddu ng'ekulembera eggwanga lino erya Uganda ye Professor Mutebile tumusiime Emmanuel yali governor wa Bank of Uganda eyawumula ennaku ntono emabega omulambo gwe omubiri gwe gwamaze okuba nga gutuuka mu ggwanga agenda kuba nga aziikibwa ku balaza wiiki ejja eyo oba Monday next week ajja kuba nga ziikibwa naye paka sawa zina abantu bengi bali wali mu home district ye Kabale nga bagezaako kubanga bakonyera obanga bayimira ne family ya governor Professor Mutebile Emmanuel Tumusiime. Omwami oyo eyagezaako kyonna kyasobola okubanga eggwanga linalizza mu maaso. So guys, AFCON yagenda mu maaso, Egypt yayiseemu wetwogerera nga Egypt ye yayiseemu ekibinja kye yakubye bana mpira gwanyumye olunaku lweggulo abagulabyeko ndoza mwanyumiddwa. Twatandise ne tiimu yabadde eya Egypt ngezanya Cote d'Ivoire oba Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast bulomia daloze eyinza okubanga ewangula kino ekikopo teyakiwangudde eyadde wangula guno mpira teyagwangula n'ekikopo bantu bangi bali bakkiriza nti ne basobola okwanga bakiwangula. Mpira gwagwedde 0-0. Ivory Coast ne bagikuba mu penalty. Egypt yakuba penalty 5. Mohamed Salah akuba penalty yasembyeyo. N'olyoka owulya Abangereza we bawaana. Mohamed Salah wins it all for Egypt. Nino gaba balaba nabo bakuba penalty zaabwe munda. Lwaki ya Salah yokaje musobola okwogerako nga teyasobole na kuteba mu yekyenda. Naye of course basobodde okubanga bayitamu. Era n'ogwa Mali ne Equatorial Guinea gwawedde 0-0. Equatorial Guinea yayiseeko ku penalty 6. Mali yakubye penalty 5. So AFCON ekyeyongerayo tujja kulaba ngeddamu olunaku lugenda kweyalwa 6. Egypt egenda kuwangezanya Morocco ku ssaawa 12 ez'akawungeezi. Then ku ssaawa 4 ez'ekiro tugenda kubanga tulaba Senegal ngezanya tiimu eno eya Equatorial Guinea. No gibeerayo ku Sunday. Then ku Saturday tugenda beera ne Gambia ngezanya Cameroon ba hosts. Then Burkina Faso ngezanya tiimu eno ya Tunisia. Tuli ku lwetolo lwa quarter finals. Tiimu 8 ezibasigaddemu mu kikopo kino ekya AFCON. So anaayitamu wakati wa Gambia ne Cameroon ajja kukwata anaayitamu wakati wa Burkina Faso ne Tunisia. Then anaayitamu wakati wa Egypt ne Morocco agenda kukwata anaayitamu wakati wa Senegal ne Equatorial Guinea. Gino empira gigenda kutunyumira era temugisuba bannange. Rogers tuli ahabe wali yetegese bulungi okubanga akomawo kubanga abaweereza ssaawa zino because omugenyi waffe ye yatuuse dda. Munatusonyiwa okubanga twatandise kikeerezi naye wetuli better late than never. Let's go in for a short commercial break. When we come back, the Mighty Drive starts now. My name is Edgar. Good morning.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Schools are open. Parents, guardians, have you prepared your adolescents that are pregnant and mothers for school? The government has given us national guidelines to assist with the responsibility of sending these girls back to school. Let us help to provide them with a safe, productive and friendly environment for their learning. They are still our children living among us in our communities. Their pregnancies, becoming mothers before adulthood, affects them, their community and our nation. All children have a right to education. Now, let's take them back to school because completing their primary and secondary school education is very important to their future careers, personal development and being productive citizens of our nation. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba amasannyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu eby'enjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna ssaawa 11 paka ssaawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda, baganda baffe, bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdulatif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Mwezi tuchali mugwa January omwaka 2022 mapuza ko ina dimsinzi dokwanga mtulaba mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala mu studios omwami Byamukama yatwegese kodda agenda kubanga ate twogereziganya ku nsonga ez'enjawulo era nga tugenda kubanga tweyongera okuwulira okuva gyali yebigenda maaso mu ggwanga abyogera kuki olunaku olw'ejjo NRM ate yajaguza emyaka 36 nate ng'emaze okubanga etwala obuyinza era nga bingi n'omukulembeze gwanga byayogeddeko oba oli awo tugenda kubanga tutukuba toki mu ebyo ebyayogeddwako olunaku olw'ejjo awamu ne 10 points program eza NRM era nga muzo mulimu democracy, mulimu security n'ebirala bingi nnyo ate bye tugenda okubanga twogerako. So tosaanidde kubeera nga osubwa nze omubejja luwedde Lilian era nga negatiddwako munnange Rogers Tulehabwe ate nga tugenda kubanga tuba twali eddala paka ssaawa 3 ez'amakya g'olunaku luno olwaleero tula Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba amasannyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu eby'enjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna ssaawa 11 paka ssaawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda, baganda baffe, bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdulatif and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okubanga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'ebyobufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Twetonda oraka kabadde kayiseemu manye byuma by'omuzungu birina engeri gye bitera ne byekyangamu naye ng'ate bwe tuli nnyo okubanga tubaweereza nga bwe mbategeezezza mu studios twegattiddwako omwami Byamukama Richard agenda kubanga ate atulamusaako naye nga tannaba tulamusaako kansooke anyanirize omwami Rogers tuli ahabwe naye asooka abuze kuba tulaba then ate tutandike awo. Rogers, good morning.
Good morning, Lydia.
When you get Oluganda, oluusi ogira n'obula. So
I know Luganda for a fact, but I am more comfortable with English. So,
okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you so much for serving us. You know, for always waking up and making it a time, a date with Ugandans to inform them about what is going on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roger Surihawe, and today, along with Lily and Omumbeja, we shall be going through a number of issues with a gentleman that's on set today. And I don't want to say much because today is about him, not about me. So, gentlemen, good morning, Mr. Richard.
Good morning, Mr. Innocent.
Mr. Rogers, actually.
Rogers.
My name is Rogers, yes. Are you welcome to the Mighty Drive?
Good morning, how are you?
Very fine.
You can say hello to our viewers.
So, our esteemed viewers of Digital Talk TV, good morning, greetings. I hope all is well with you. So, I like tubeereko tukkaanya wamu ensonga tulabe ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga tusobole okutebenkeza eggwanga kuba Katonda n'ensi yange.
Okay. Nga tetunabagenda mu discussion. Tell us about Byamukama Richard. Who is Byamukama?
Byamukama munnamateeka kyekyo ekisooka.
Okay.
Asoma byakwerinda n'enkola ey'ekikugu ye degree ey'okubiri ndowooza. So, Muna-Uganda, it is not a matter of where I come from, because I come from a very remote district here in Western Uganda.
Okay.
A small district called Kagadi. So that is not a matter to discuss right now. The bigger cause, I'm a Ugandan like many of us. So that is what we should be proud of,
okay.
not where one comes from. That is not among...
You said Osama Byakwerinda. What is that?
Yes. Byakwerinda n'enkola y'ekikugu essomo libeerayo ku university gye riri ku university Nkumba.
Kati ng'osoma Byakwerinda bakuyigiriza ngeri gye bakwatamu mundu. Is it about diplomacy? Is it? What exactly?
It is more of a paramilitary. But what I'm doing is not about paramilitarism. It is about class work, ideology, doctrines about security, human security, even. So that is what we study about. So mwebyo twigiramu ebintu bingi because wowe tunuulidde a broader perspective of security, not this one of yours gye mutera nnyo okulaba So in security tukugamba the presence of any threat amounts to inadequate security. So kabwe bulwadde nga kino ekirwadde COVID-19. So it is a security threat. Okay. We have seen many people suffering as a result of the scourge, you see. In the previous times we were studying about scourges like Ebola, HIV. So those were the scourges that were available by then. So
right now we have COVID-19.
Yes, so there are many things, many aspects that make up security studies, apart from this paramilitarism, terrorism. So there are several.
An ordinary Ugandan would obviously say that security is about
a gun.
It's about what is going on. It's about how to maintain that.
It's about wearing that uniform, and you move with a baton or with a gun. So
that is more of a paramilitarism. But I also have such skills because I think I trained way back. I was 17 when I trained in paramilitarism, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Eventually, you are in the same column.
So that's, you see, like in the world we are heading to, you will find like it is a world full of terror. Terrorism is growing day and night. Civil unrest. So it is very wise for if many of us took up and studied such strategic courses, because the global question is about among the sustainable development goals. Yeah, we have sustainable security. Like every citizen of this world, of this planet, should have sustainable security. So this can be best achieved if we understand security ourselves. Not just relying on paramilitaries, yes, those trained soldiers and armies. So,
except that would also mean that it becomes easy for terror to happen, because now everyone has a skill, everyone knows how to do certain things. No, so it becomes easier for people to terrorize others.
You see, terrorism has been a trend. I remember the first convention about terror was around 1898. Yeah. So when the Pope was assassinated? So such sort of. So that conversion, the events, the trends have kept on changing. The past terror activities depended on rudimentary, traditional ways of acting. You see, but the current, the modern, due to the wide sponsorships, the invasion of better technology, we are seeing more sophisticated terror.
And now we are moving from the terror that we know, the masculine, physical kind, going to the digital one.
Apart from these bombs, you see, there are other forms of terror. Even there is biological terror. There is more of biological weapons we use.
Yeah,
more of biological weapons. There are many forms of terror apart from this. The Al-Shabaab, you see, yeah, the ADF, and that is why our paramilitaries are in Congo. We are trying.
A part of it, okay. Let's just pause the discussion on terror, because we will definitely get back. You mentioned the fact that there's inequality. Is it? Inadequate terror, if there is any kind of that. Inadequate security, sorry. Yes, if there's any kind of threat.
Yes.
And that is going to go to some of the issues that we'll be discussing. You subscribe to the NRM, right?
Obviously, because the freedoms are granted on us.
So you have the freedom and you're exercising your freedom. I'm not castigating you.
I'm not shy about it.
You shouldn't be. Like you said, it's your right. Yeah. It's a choice that every Ugandan should make. They want to belong to a certain group. So this is your week, yeah? The NRM week. You're celebrating 36 years since you've gotten into the power of leading Uganda in 1986. In that period, the period specifically 2021-2026, you're looking at securing the future of Ugandans. I don't understand. I want to understand how exactly you're going to secure Ugandans' future in 6 years that you have failed in the last 36.
You see, like like any regime has achievements and failures,
Yes.
strengths and weaknesses. So the NRM, according to the circumstances and the dynamics that were present at that time, it resulted to the ways of how to capture power through a liberation struggle. We can call it a liberation struggle because it was a struggle sponsored and supported by the majority of the citizens of this country.
So we assume.
Yeah,
because
so
I don't really believe with the notion of the majority of Ugandans. We want to say, because that's what we want to understand, and it is said by the ruling party. Obviously, they wouldn't discredit themselves and say they were not supported. So it's open that they are saying that is a fact. But we don't have facts to that effect.
Without the support of the majority and the citizens where the Bush War, the liberation struggle was held, I believe it is hardly that the revolution would have succeeded.
How many regions did it happen in Uganda?
Yes.
How many regions did it happen?
But it had support from the entire base. We had soldiers from other regions. You see, there were soldiers from each and every region, fighters from each and every region that makes up the country Uganda.
Well, let's go to securing our future.
Yeah, and we saw many of them raised to higher ranks. They are in the UPDF currently. So that shouldn't be an issue to emphasize that.
No, it was on the question of representation as to the effect that majority of the people are supporting the struggle.
Without it being popular, it would have failed, and we could have seen something else, you see. So it was a popular revolution supported by the majority. That's why it succeeded. You see, we have had revolutions that have taken lots of time.
Can I ask? Sorry to cut you short. Can I ask you a question? If today we had a war with the USA, let's assume, and the USA won, would we say it was because of the majority or because they had the resources?
You see,
so the winning is not a basis of the majority or the minority. It's having the resources you need to do that. So I want to understand your point on the majority that you emphasize.
You are just assuming in a divergent objective. You are in a war with another country, but this is a liberation struggle of the citizens against their oppressors. Like it was, you see, we have had such struggles in Africa, and they have been supported by the popular cause, and they have succeeded. We had struggles in Tanzania against the Germans. You read of the Maj. Yeah, those struggles. Yes, we have had the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. It was a popular cause supported by the citizens. It succeeded. You don't necessarily need war equipments or technology or guns to win the war. You must have the will of the people, the support of the people, and the cause must be popular. So it depends on who the leader of the struggle is and the ideology of the struggle and its aims. Yeah.
Okay. NRM has the 10 points. Okay, let's go in the 10 points program, which include democracy, security, elimination of corruption, to mention but a few. But right now, is it still following the 10 points program that were put in order for it to achieve its goals as a party?
You see, for every party for every struggle to succeed, it has to have an ideology, and that's what we call, that's what came up to rise as the 10 points program. It is the basis on which majority of the citizens were convinced to join the struggle and to support their liberations against the oppressors. So we saw after the capture of power by the NRA and NRM, the political wing, so we saw aspects of constitutionalism coming in later, because amongst the 10 points program was the first point on the 10 points program was democracy, good politics, and It was very much emphasized in the army struggles. I think you have ever heard of Kiswahili words and songs called siasa nzuri. Yes, siasa nzuri. Nita songa na siasa nzuri. So those siasa nzuri means good politics, and that is democracy. So right now what we see is like when you see elements of universal participation, adult suffrage, equality representation, fundamental human rights. So those are fruits of the struggle. Those are
and
the fruits.
Democracy.
You see,
I want you to expound on that point of democracy.
Yes.
I hear a point about equal representation.
Yes.
I have a serious question on that. You talk about fundamental human rights, especially that one, because where we stand as an advocate and as someone who has studied a bit of politics and good governance, you would understand that we are not even close to that. We are remotely close.
It is what you are assuming.
No, it's not what I'm assuming. It's what is happening.
Assuming.
Because unless you don't live in Uganda, it has always happened.
You
So,
media guys.
First, go on. Expound on
in
democracy.
political science, there is in sociology, political sociology, there is what we call framing. So while framing, these political parties, especially the opposition political parties, when there is a problem or an issue, they tend to bridge that issue. After bridging that issue, then they amplify.
Okay.
Yeah, so the mechanisms of amplification, to amplify is to increase the magnitude, like to cause alarm or something greater or bigger. Yes. So the mechanisms of amplifications that these opposition parties and non-state believers use, it is the media. One of them is the media, and that is why you are emphasizing on what you are emphasizing at. So what, like democracy, we have to see the trends, the issues, the principles that form up democracy. Amongst them, we have representation.
I want you to go slow one by one.
Of powers.
First, wait. I want you to go slow one by one, and I want us to understand exactly which one you mean, because now you're talking about equal representation. Uganda has a population of over 70% being young people. I want you to tell me how many young people are in decision-making spaces, because we are talking about equal representation. I want you to tell me how much of those. I want to assume you also are youth, so please make sure you make that.
We have youth MPs, but again,
how many are they?
But again, what does your constitution say?
What does it say?
Universal adult suffrage. So if the youth stand and the people tend to, you see, it is the people who decide. So the constitution says for one to be a representative or into parliament has to be 18 years and above.
Okay.
You see, it has no limitations about that. So if when you see the structure of representatives in the state, in the parliament, the legislative house, like it is what the population have decided.
But now we've got a problem of monetization of politics, and which leaves the youths not contesting because they don't have this money to give to the voters.
I don't want you to look at in that diplomatic sense of this is what the law is saying. I want you to look at the reality, what is on the ground, how is it happening, how does it come about? Because
we're emphasizing
we don't talk book politics.
And the rule of law.
Yeah, that's in books, but what is on the ground?
But you see, like Amumbeja has asked monetization of politics. You see, democracy is very expensive. I believe our people have not been properly sensitized about democracy and multi-party politics.
Okay.
We had good politics under the movement system from 96 to 2001, and then the levels of our politics went on deteriorating as soon as we joined multi-party dispensation. So under this, like the alternative parties, the opposition parties, aim at grabbing power. Their main aim is capturing power in whatever ways.
Should we have remained in the single party politics?
Yes.
Should we have remained in the single party politics?
For my case, I believe we could have done better because we had better alternative policies by then.
And before this party came into power, it was in the opposition.
Yes.
Which did not even use the democratic means to come to power.
You see.
So
you see, what you are talking about, the democratic means of coming to power, when there is no democracy, it makes the point not come out at all, because we didn't have democracy by then, as evidenced by the trends that were happening by then. See how UPC and DP were always at collusion, how our political parties were based on religions and whatever ethnicity. Yes, that alone couldn't amount to meaningful democracy. Yes, that's why I believe the NRM used undemocratic means to oust the oppressors and establish democratic principles and the rule of law, what we are seeing today. You see, I have been seeing, is it Professor Ndebesa writing about those stories? You see, it is a negativity, lack of doctrine. That is what will plunge our political parties into turmoil. They are plunging themselves into turmoil because they lack a basis of mobilization. When you have no ideology, like you well understand, the 10 points program was the ideology of the NRA and the NRM. So the current political parties, they are there.
They don't have ideology.
They are there.
You are
I see many of them emphasizing on ethnicity. Such slogans do not amount to a national cause. Democracy should aim at a national cause. Being in opposition should aim at national development. We should provide alternative policies for the government to put into consideration, because the people, the citizens of the country, are the citizens to all of us. They subscribe to all the parties. I have seen this politics happen in Britain, when the Conservative Party is in power, like it is right now. The Labour Party, Boris Johnson, gives correct and good alternative policies.
But don't you think the opposition has done so, only that their voices have been suffocated?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Is it would be, sorry to add on what she's saying, the idea is, if someone is going to provide alternatives, there should be room for that. Nowadays, every time someone stands up, especially if they are in the opposition, they are causing commotion, they are tear gassing them, they are doing this and that. We have MPs now who are in prison on allegations that are not founded. So where is there room for that alternatives? Because everything that comes on opposition is useless and it's nonsense and it's surprising. And
you see, those civic rights are provided for under the Constitution,
which is not respected. Again, it's what I was saying. We have written rules. We don't have them in reality. Now that is why you're basing your discussion on what is written down, not what is happening.
That's where you go wrong. Being provided for under the Constitution doesn't mean you break the Constitution.
How do you break the Constitution?
You go against the Constitution because it provides for civic rights and gives you alternatives. These civic rights should be exercised in accordance with the law.
Exactly. Should we break down some of the scenarios?
Do they follow the law?
Should we break down some of the scenarios?
We have the Constitution that is not followed.
Yes?
We have the Constitution, but it's not followed.
By the opposition themselves, because if the civic rights, the rights of engagements of citizens say like you should follow the law. So which law are we looking at in this case? You have to inform police.
But is the constitution still serving, is it still serving Ugandans or it's serving one individual?
So it depends on how you want to take it. But I see many, even our political parties depend on the constitution. By virtue of their being political parties, it means the constitution is active. So
you don't get one isolated case and make it a representation of the whole idea. Sorry, please go ahead.
it's amended to how can I phrase it? It's amended to benefit one individual.
You see, like if we have to go into that, the ways of amendments are provided for under the constitution. Is it Article 1 provides for sovereignty of the people, of the citizens. So it is the citizens.
And I can see that the citizens have been at the center of the amendments.
Obviously, we have had a referendum. In 2003? We have had representative amendments recently. So I believe...
We have had the age limit removed by the people themselves. I can see that.
You see, that is a representative democracy. So the people were consulted and...
the president talked about scrapping off...
Their representatives said so, you see. It is the majority, the people's representatives who amended the constitution.
Do you look in
so you can't amend the constitution without the will of the citizens of this country.
But so it has been amended time and
again.
I want
you to the bail reforms, now the presidential election.
You see, like those are just rumors. Why do you focus on rumors?
But that's how the Tojukwatakwe started.
I don't believe so.
Okay, those
are just rumors. We know the rightful ways of how the constitution should be amended. So we should emphasize on those lawful means. But right now, talking about rumors, bail, those are rumors. Bail is in the constitution right now. There are circumstances, there are provisions under which bail is granted. So it is not...
But didn't you hear the Chief Justice and the President talking about that issue? Pulling ropes.
Those, you see, like when there is like a proposal, it depends on the will of the citizens. That is what I was up to. Like if the citizens decide, so like the constitution takes what the citizens have decided. So in this case, the collusion about the president and the chief justice, I don't know about that. I just
you haven't heard anything about it.
I just know like everyone was giving his opinion about it, but I don't know about the collusion. I know about the opinions of the two about bail. But according to that, the constitution still prevails because it has not been amended. That's why we have seen. That's why we are seeing many people being given bail. Go to courts yesterday. Kakwenza was given bail. I was on a certain panel and I was tasked to answer all about Kakwenza, and I'm glad he was given bail. That is what
afterwards.
Those are things he has been writing about. Like the opposition guys are not up to the ideology. You are against the state, and you forget the state exercises its duties in accordance with the law. So it is the same law that the state puts into force that gave Kakwenza bail.
So first of all, do you live in Uganda?
I'm not a mercenary. I was born here.
I know I'm being born in Uganda, not living in Uganda.
I told you I was
come from Kagadi.
Yes.
So let me ask you,
here.
We had an issue of the age limit that you were talking about, and you said the people accepted. But if you lived in Uganda, you would understand that in every corner of Uganda, every person was not agreeing with that idea of removing an age limit. So I don't understand where you come from, and you come and say the people accepted, unless if you didn't really live in Uganda.
Why do you take your belief?
It's not my belief, it is what was on the ground.
The entire Ugandans.
It is what was here.
Because we saw the voting in parliament being conducted in broad daylight, and the majority voted. But did they vote? Yes, the constitutional amendment should take force. So, I believe the constitutional ways of amending the age limit were followed. We saw consultation, but government gave these representatives extra money to consult their citizens.
Which happened?
Obviously, if it depends on how one handled it, but I believe everyone who...
It's not about belief,
yes,
it's about
yes,
what was the fact.
Everyone who voted must have had grounds of voting. Everyone who voted must have, because we saw people, even in the NRM.
Let's talk about the people of Kagadi, where you were born. Were they consulted?
Obviously, because Tinkasimire, my friend Tinkasimire consulted, and the people of Buyaga West, the ones he consulted, I may not believe that like everyone was consulted, but the ones that he consulted said, go and vote so and so. My MP voted so and so because the people said so and so, and he's back in parliament. So the woman MP is in parliament for her second term. He voted yes. So we should emphasize on what on the institutionalism, like the institution of parliament has its own mandate. So whatever it decides, it has to be in accordance with the constitution, and that's why the age limit was amended. It was amended according to the provisions of the law itself. Yes, like what happens if the law is not amended in a proper way? Like we saw court cases coming up later. Maybe is it going to court? So is it Constitutional Court, and later Supreme Court, later East African Court, and all the courts proved whatever the decisions they were. I believe you all read the court judgments, and you still believe with your belief. Do you?
I still do, yes. Because you see, it's one thing to have a book and what is enshrined in that book, and it's one thing to exercise what is happening. You also talked about, you hinted on Kakwenza and what is going on. I wonder what exactly is being charged, because I don't remember the president's son being in the constitution. So standing up and saying he is charged because he annoyed the son of the president. I don't know. Should I annoy you and I will be arrested? Is that how the world works?
I believe,
is that exactly what you're trying to mean?
I believe you have not understood the charge sheet about Kakwenza. So the constitution.
What were the charges?
The charges were offensive communication and disturbing the peace of the president. The president himself. The president, and that is provided for by our penal laws. And then yes, that is provided for by our penal laws in the Penal Code Act. Like the president is given that immunity. It is an immunity. Like if we have to discuss about that, so that it depends on the reception clauses, the reception of the law in Uganda. So and the common law doctrines, because those were the ones that were incorporated into the penal laws. The Penal Code Act provides for it. These charges have been into force. They have not been enacted yesterday or after the arrest of Kakwenza, in order to detain Kakwenza. So under the Constitution, it is our obligation as citizens of this country to observe the law. Kakwenza observe the law by abusing the president. Really, we should teach our citizens good politics and like the law itself, we should sensitize our citizens about how we should put state interests, like national interests on a national front. Yes.
Now that you talk about the whole idea of we have the law and the laws were amended as the Constitution provides, I want to also look at, because democracy is also looking at the fact that institutions are independent in making their own decisions. I want you to talk about the equality, the independence of each of those institutions in making decisions, because you have seen time and again one of the arms of the government influencing what comes out of another arm of government. Because now that is where the representation of the people does not come in, because another institution is influencing the other. So there is no independence. I want you to talk about that as well. As an achievement of the NRM party, and there is democracy among the 10-point programs.
You see, I believe whatever is being done is in accordance with the law. So I don't really buy your idea of influence.
It's not about your belief, it's what's happening. I want you to look at what is happening.
The separation of powers doesn't really amount to conflicting of powers. These powers
so what is separation of powers? Define separation of powers, explain.
Like the judiciary, the legislature and the executive.
I want you to talk about the principle of separation of powers and apply.
Should be independent of themselves, like what we see.
Making independent
But are they
decisions.
independent?
And now relate it to what
they make their own decisions, independent decisions. We have the parliament headed by the speakers. Its head. We have seen like
the judiciary.
The judiciary is headed by its chief justice, like and the executive. Like each arm of government is entitled to decision making. So what we see, like we have seen these arms of governments conflicting before, but according to the doctrine, they should live in harmony to advise each other. You see, so like we have had retrospective legislation. The Constitution bars retrospective legislation. So under this, when there is a court order, a precedence, the Parliament cannot go ahead to enact a law to remove that court order. So that is what we mean by retrospective legislation.
And having the army beat up, apparently on orders from above, beat up MPs in the legislature because they are taking a certain direction is also independence of each of those institutions, I can see.
Why do you believe so? Like,
because it is what is here.
Why do you believe that they were beating people?
You didn't see it?
Different ideology. You see, according to what I know, these members of parliament have an immunity when they are inside the House of Parliament. But again, having an immunity or a privilege shouldn't amount to you becoming a nuisance or doing wrong things.
Are there no modes of procedure? There is a code of procedure of Parliament. Is the army supposed to be in Parliament?
You see, that's what I'm up to. By you having an immunity or a privilege doesn't mean you infringe on the privilege of others, you infringe on the immunity of others. So because these people of alternative ideas do not necessarily form the entire house. They are people with other ideologies, they are NRM, they are independents, and they were conflicting on their rights and their rights to deliberation, their rights of debate. They were causing commotion in the Parliament, and that is not the rightful way of how Parliament should conduct debates.
And there is a code of conduct for Parliament. Yes. Is the code of conduct including the army being in Parliament? Enforcing the code of conduct? So is it the army's role to do that?
So why do you want to emphasize first the presence of the army in parliament, and you don't want to emphasize on why they should do wrong things? They should they should turn yes. Why do you first? Is it in the procedures of parliament, like these MPs should stand on chairs, should turn it into a crowd?
Does Parliament have a code of conduct? That's the first question I wanted to answer, and then tell me if that was also in order the way they were handled.
So you see, like,
and in the law, as you
according to the court rulings, because these were among the issues that formed the basis of the appeal in the Constitutional Court. The presence of army in Parliament, court emphasized it has to be done in the right way, but it didn't nullify like the fact that these MPs should also act in a formal way, in a rightful way. When I am not excusing their conduct. When they are inside that house. Yes.
What I'm talking about is the protocol, how they were handled. Not that they were doing the right thing.
You see,
the MPs themselves.
I believe, like you see, we have had there is security at Parliament, and I believe that there was communication, there was okuwuliziganya between the security at Parliament and the army that came in later, because these MPs were totally a nuisance by then, and I don't believe the command at Parliament could really handle. That's why we saw the army coming in. Yes.
But the way they were handled, was it the right way? Handling people's representatives like thieves?
So if you don't disrespect yourself, what should you expect? But again, you see, what we saw by then, when you are arresting a person, a resistant person, that's why those paramilitaries, when they are in their training schools, they are taught to fire bullets, to fire in the air. So when you are arresting a resistant person, you saw them, they were fighting. They had sticks, they had chairs, they were totally resistant. So that's why you see, we had that little force, it is provided for by the law.
That's a good choice of words.
But let's talk about the UPDF that was taken to Congo. Parliamentarians were complaining that they weren't notified on this issue, or they weren't consulted before taking the UPDF to Congo, and yet we have UPDF representatives in Parliament.
Well, that has been an issue. I have seen several my friends in Parliament, many of them, and lawyers and advocates saying so. I don't believe it is what forms part of the laws of this country. The armies in Congo, according to the law and to the right procedures, except if the law was amended last night when I was sleeping.
What does the law say?
According to what I know. Is it?
And what law exactly does say?
Article 24 of the Constitution provides for a state war. A state war. So do you need to first Google?
I want you to tell me what the law says and how that was followed in the process.
The meaning, the Article 24 provides for a state war, if the president declares a state war, he has to inform Parliament within a specified period of time. I believe 72 hours, is it?
Yes, it is.
And that period elapsed without the president informing Parliament.
If the Parliament is in recess, it has to be called back. But that is not what we are seeing in Congo. Is it a state war really? Which country are we fighting with in Congo?
Are we not? Yes? Are we not?
Is
Why
it
are we in
state
Congo
war?
then if
Yes.
we don't have any issues?
You see,
if we have no influence, if we
is
don't
it-
have any...
Is it again under Article 210? I think Article 210, Clause D. It provides that Parliament shall enact laws to regulate the UPDF, because that article talks about the UPDF as a national army. So under its provision D, like at Clause D of that article, says that Parliament shall enact laws to regulate the army, UPDF. So under these laws that were enacted, it includes one among them, the UPDF Act, which is the sovereign law governing the UPDF army. So the UPDF army was deployed in Congo under the UPDF Act. The UPDF Act was enacted in 2005. So if you really like under the UPDF Act, is it Section 29 provides for deployment of forces outside the country. So it further goes ahead under Section 1, subsection A and B. Subsection A says that in case the army is being deployed in a foreign country under a mission of peacekeeping, like what we are seeing in Somalia, or if we have to do it in another country. So the president has to inform Parliament, and if Parliament is in recess, it has to be called within 1 day. That is 24 hours, is it? Yes. So like it goes ahead under subsection B and says and talks about peace reinforcement. Peace reinforcement. That's what we are seeing in Congo.
You know, you're contradicting yourself, because you said
it is the law.
At first, listen.
Yes.
At first, you said that the provisions of Article 24 is so that if there is a state 124, sorry.
Yes.
The government, the president has to inform Parliament within reasonable time, which was given 72.
Yes.
And then you quote UPDF, you also mentioned that there is in a period of 24, they have to inform the Parliament. Is that
Yes.
right? So on both occasions, that's 24 is for if it's on a peacekeeping mission, right?
Yes.
Another is for a state of emergency, which wasn't the case.
Yes.
Now, I want you to tell me which of the two was, where do we fall, and what was the protocol that was followed, and if it conforms to both of those provisions.
We fall among none of the two.
So where are we?
We are under the peace reinforcement.
Which is?
It is under, I believe it is under Section 29, subsection 1B, peace reinforcement.
Of what section again? Which
of the UPDF Act, the supreme law that governs the national army. So under under this section, like it goes ahead under this act, it goes ahead under Section 30, the same act, the UPDF Act, and provides for the procedure of how the army should go, like the army should go into a foreign country, like on a peace reinforcement mission, like what we are seeing in Congo. They have to be either bilateral agreements or multilateral. Bilateral means two parties making an agreement, or multilateral if the parties are exceeding two. So that I believe that is what we are seeing in Congo, and the rightful procedure is the Minister of Security of Uganda has to come into agreement with the Minister of Security of the visiting of the country in which the army is going to, and the only requirement required under this is the status of force.
So, Mr. Richard,
of force. That is what is required for by the law. So the status of force is what the Minister of Security of Defense was supposed to do in order for our army to be in a foreign country, and that is what we saw those letters.
But now we have security committees that are believed to inform the government on security in our country, and this committee wasn't also informed.
But again, we should go by the law.
And we should also say the constitution is the grand norm. It means any other law that might be, in contravention is void. Is that what it says?
Obviously.
So it obviously means that the constitution should supersede any other law.
So does the constitution talk about it?
It does.
Under which
the ones you just mentioned, but you followed the UPDF. so I don't know how that also conforms to the constitution.
Really, do we have to go about the definition or the meaning of a state war? I think you have to.
Okay, let's move away from.
Yes.
From that
a state war is when a country is at war with another country. So are we at war with Congo? So.
What are we at war with?
Yes, with ADF under a peace reinforcement.
Good.
So it is provided for under section 29 of the UPDF Act, section 29 subsection B. So it is further the procedure is further stipulated under section 30. So and section 31 provides for like when the army is in a foreign country and the status of force has been enacted, like the army, the officers of the army who commit offences in a foreign country are subject to the laws of Uganda, not to the laws of that country in which the offences have been committed. Okay. So that is what is stipulated under section 31 of the UPDF Act. So we have a caller. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, mwami Mushabe.
Oyo mwami kubimundooza achievements za NRM ye UPE ndooza era ne USE naye tandabikira kubanga yasukka okusomera mu masomero ago ga UPE ne USE because the way he articulates his issues dambi otaasira ensi we tutta n'emyaka 36 getukozeemu loosinga eggwanga ate surprising I am era mubadde nga temujje mumukyanze nga mugamba why doing law, why he's a lawyer, why he wants to, why he's dreaming of being one.
He's a lawyer.
I think as a generation, abantu ab'emyaka gyammwe bongedde kusyamu buliri kwe. I'm even forgetting his name, your guest. I think there is need to do more than that as a generation, especially ab'emyaka gyammwe. Bambi omwana musajja wattu sorry to say, olaba avuya n'ekintu kyabwe. As in kuvuya bwamu kigwe ne bwakinyonyola yekenyinza kimunyumira nekenyinza maybe anyonyola batuuseeko. You asked about the independence of different organs of government. That gentleman is simply, swimming through the ocean to explain on how a parliament has its speaker, and then what? The here judiciary has its chief justice, and then what? He has nothing. In fact, China never name. As in, maybe NRM wolabe mukyaza abantu mweze munsobera oba batending academy yemu balinga abakiira awantu baba refilling abagenda okwogera ne baba script oyotayabukana n'omulala gwemuteni kyaza oba mwita bakyaguba nomala oba mumito bootedde n'abalala balinga abakiira awantu bakuwa ero chairperson's office ne bakuba akayiso bagamba kati bwogenda kuva mu layini nyonyola bino ne batandika okuguya n'ebintu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mushabe, for calling. Is it true that you're given a script?
Where is it? Where is the script?
Mr. Richard.
Like to conclude on the issue of the UPDF in Congo.
I want us to leave that because
the
there are a lot of issues.
The UPDF is in Congo in the rightful way, according to the law. Like we should look at a broader picture of why the UPDF is in Congo. Like our parliamentarians, that is what I have been talking about. Like the lack of doctrine, political parties out of lacking a doctrine have become a nuisance, and they are plunging the country into a dilemma. We are plunging the country into a dilemma. Like these ADF terrorists bombed the parliament, and I don't really believe it should be these representatives mediocre fidgeting around the law when the law is very clear under the UPDF Act, the procedure of how the army goes in Congo and how it is there.
Okay, Mr. Richard, I wonder exactly what parliament was bombed. I don't remember any Ugandan parliament being bombed, but if we may move away from that very point,
I believe it was so close to that.
Which is different. Now you have different facts.
We saw many of them panicking. I saw many of them on television in a rush, and I believe it should be that rush that we should have used to force the UPDF. In fact, we should have forced the UPDF to go in Congo and disband these paramilitaries, these terror bases and camps. Because if we continue with this tolerance of terrorism, there are some states in Nigeria, for those who studied the history of West Africa, studied about fundamentalism in West Africa, people like Usman Dan Fodio, Alhaji Umar, and as a result of that tolerance of fundamentalism, we see terrorism in West Africa right now.
Let's
so we shouldn't tolerate
those. We as a country, we've encountered different rebel groups.
Yes.
We had the LRA, so right now we have the ADF.
Yes.
How can Uganda safeguard itself from these terror groups, from these terrorists?
By disbanding them. That's what they are doing. That's what the army is doing. That's the role of the army, and it is doing it in the rightful procedure. It is only for the Waizekas. Many of my friends, I see them. So that's the country we are having. That's the politics we are teaching our people. We are not teaching them the rightful law. We are teaching them about the laws we want, the laws we assume, and what we want. That's what we are seeing. Many of them trying to indoctrinate our citizens.
Under your 10-point programs, I want us to move away from that because we are taking a lot of time and you have a number of issues. You have, under your 10-point programs, point 7 is about eliminating corruption and misuse of power. How have you reached, how far have you come to that in the 36 years as NRM?
Well, as every regime has strengths and weaknesses. I don't really believe, even the UN, have you read about the Millennium Summit? The United Nations Millennium Declaration that declared the Millennium Development Goals. It was held in 2000. So it gave about 8 Millennium Development Goals. So, but they were later abandoned in 2015. So
did you abandon the elimination of corruption?
No, I'm coming to the point.
Please cut across, because time is running out.
Like if the globe can fail over ideology, over the basics of development, so why not a state? But what we see right now about corruption, we have institutions fighting corruption. We have we have seen many people being aligned before court.
We have left and given new ministries
in accordance with the law.
Because they
so
were not corrupt enough,
in accordance with the law.
You see, I believe.
What law says again that if someone is found corrupt, they can be given another ministry?
There is one minister.
I want to understand the context.
There is one minister who was, I'm forgetting the name. Is now, some lady from, Poto Mbarara, the minister of Ruero Triangle. So she was convicted of corruption and embezzlement during the Global Fund, Gavi. So,
And to also include that Jim, who is our current Minister of Security, was also found guilty.
by courts.
Yes.
Which courts?
Ugandan courts. But go ahead, you are making the point. You are making the
What
point.
was the decision?
You see, there's one thing, let me tell you. There's one point,
yes.
Mr. Richard. I don't want us to come here and just talk for talking for the sake of talking.
Obviously, we have.
I want you. I want you to understand the context where we stand as a country,
Yes.
and what is written in the books is one thing, but there is also what
You
is
see,
happening.
the
First listen.
ones-
What is happening is not the same as what is written in the books, because even the Constitution itself, it has been amended several times without the consent of the people. But you also tying yourself on this is what happened and that is what in the book. But what is not what happened? Where is the people? Where is their voice? How do people participate in those? I asked you about the representation of young people. You also talked about they are just not doing it. But we also have a majority of the population being young people. So I want you to talk about Uganda loses about 20 trillion Uganda shillings every year, and that is it leads to corruption. I wanted to understand exactly how you have, because being one of the 10-point programs, how you have achieved, you're going to move past that, especially in the period that is left, in securing our future.
Well, I believe the incidences we see, I have hope that we can do better if we revise our approach towards corruption. But according to what is on right now, we have had institutions that are trying. You see, corruption is a moral issue. So fighting morals, it shouldn't be left to be a priority of only the sitting government. It should be for all of us. It is a battle for all of us, because it affects all of us.
But now when someone is corrupt and the government is not apprehending them, what do you expect?
So you see, like we have seen many of them being apprehended, many of them are in jail. Should I give you examples? Do you want them?
Yes, please. And those that have been left to go free. That is one. Please go ahead. Because I don't know if Kazinda has eaten the 20 trillion Uganda shillings.
I've told you many of them. You see, like the institution, there is the anti-corruption court, there is the IGG.
IGG that said that every time there's an investigation, it goes around the big shots and they are told to not touch those. So how does that inform the approach that we are using to fight corruption as a government?
I believe we should be more assertive on the law.
The law that is...
If really you are granted the mandate by the law to do your
and what happens?
Is the law being practiced, or why we just have the laws?
That's what I was telling him. What is practiced is different from what is on the laws. So and you're saying we focus on the laws, but we are being abused every now and then.
You see, like corruption. Like when you are given authority, you have to practice. I mean to exercise your authority in accordance with the law. So I don't believe in Uganda is someone above the law. So if you come out and give that excuse, you should go to jail or resign.
I remember the president also saying that we can leave the corrupt people as long as they keep their money here.
How will we eliminate corruption when these people are being protected by the president?
I don't believe that.
It's not about your belief, it's about what the fact is happening.
Yes, I believe he was redirecting the direction on how we should fight corruption.
By keeping them around. The corrupt people.
I don't believe
so. They can eat more and keep it here. And that will benefit Uganda.
Because the lifestyle audit that Madam was emphasizing, people have many sources of income. So if you audit my lifestyle, if I'm earning money from other various sources, and then you audit my lifestyle according to my salary, public service salary, and you again equate it to corruption, I don't believe like that should have amounted. You see, the president was all about redirecting. Not, so if I get my money from other sources and build a hotel.
So as a government, with your point of eliminating corruption, how are you planning on doing it? Because it's happening even more. Well,
it is a global fight. I was reading of a certain report written by this, is it? I'm forgetting that organization, Sub-Saharan African organization that fights corruption. Like corruption has been on a trend.
How do we fight it is what we want to know. How do we fight it?
We can do so we should also follow that trend.
If we adopted the communist approach.
What is the communist approach?
No, I don't. To action corruption?
And there are people out there who want to know exactly that, because if it's going to take us away from corruption, we should all know.
The Communist Party came in as a revolutionary party after the ousting of Kai Sheng. There was a dictator called Kai Sheng, and came in Mao Zedong. So the Communist Party adopted a non-tolerance system of governance. So we can have laws that are non-tolerant. If at all you want to bring back, is it Kalaba? That should be the best approach. Yes, that is the best approach.
The thing is, that is exactly going to what we were talking about earlier. The thing is, the laws are there, and we have institutions like you mentioned. But why are we getting even more corrupt? Because now the communist approach is we should have the laws, which we actually have. So why are we even getting more corrupt?
I don't believe there is any law. I think I have read the penal code very well. There is no law, there is no corruption law that entails Kalaba.
No, except if you're suggesting that there should be Kalaba for that.
Obviously, that should be the best option, because what we are seeing is moral corruption. Moral.
That is affecting the people of Uganda.
Obviously, even we see corruption in churches. We are seeing churches being torn apart day and night. So it is a moral issue. So if we adopted the communist approach, we can do better. Because
you can talk to the president about that, so that those people who are stealing money do not have to keep it here, but they can die. It should be the representatives. They are the ones that... Can't you subscribe to the party, so I believe?
The representatives are the ones that make these rules. They are the ones to enact these rules, like corruption should be fought in this and this way. So I myself, as a citizen of Uganda, I'm just giving them a go-ahead, like we should do it like this. We saw, we had Ugandans who were being, who have been tried under communist laws. There was a musician, Irene. Do you know what had happened to her?
No, I don't.
And the agreement, she was going to face, is it less penalty? Was it Japan? So we should be assertive on the law. We should introduce new rules to fight the vice, because it is a moral issue. If only we depend on the current rules.
We want to move a step.
Obviously.
Okay, so
because Parliament is the only institution that has the powers, that has the mandate to make these rules. So the ball is up to them to either fight corruption, or we keep on trying,
The mandate comes from the people, so it's important that you tell them.
Yes, if we keep trying to fight like we are doing, we shall be getting rid of them, culprits, sending them to jail. By again, in a broader perspective, we shall not be up to the real aims of the cause to eliminate it to the lowest reasonable levels.
Before we come to the end of the show, let me read some comments. Tomosime Edson says, democracy is everyone's responsibility. for the development of our country. We are tired of party politics where a party in power does not accept mistakes and advices. Again, opposition does not accept what is done. Do you have any comment on this? On what Mr. Thompson has said?
He or she is up to the trend. Political parties, I told you, like we should have tolerant, alternative policies. You know, like we shouldn't aim at only power at the extent of our citizens. Like every time you talk on media or to the citizens, you are talking about regime termination, which is against the general will of the people, because we know how the regime has been put into power through the will of the majority. And talking about regime termination all the time, it is a wastage of time itself. Yes, I believe we should, that's why I started by believing we should have done better in a movement system where we had no political parties, because our political parties were formed on a basis of Wafaransa, Waingereza, that basis.
Okay.
So that's why the system is, the political parties are again turning the country into a nuisance. We have had political parties doing better in other countries. Again, we can also do better if we redirect, if we sensitize the citizens about the laws, if we stop quoting about the laws we want and ignoring what the exact law is.
And that is
like many of them, yes, like many of them are doing. If we give better alternative policies, if we sensitize, because I believe for democracy and these party politics to exist state integrity and sovereignty, we have to emphasize, to sensitize our citizens. So that this is in most cases very costly. It requires lots of money. That's why the Netherlands Institute of Democracy is injecting lots of money.
And that is where Mr. Nixon
in
posed
emphasizing the democracy of Uganda through iPod.
Mr. Nixon posed the question to you. Is the UPDF Act above the Constitution?
Obviously not, but the Constitution doesn't stipulate what is taking place in Congo. I have told you the Constitution in its provisions under Article, one can Google or read the Constitution, Article 124. So the Constitution talks about a state war. So we should have searched about a state war and read it to the citizens, because the citizens may not believe in me, but that is what the law says under Article 124. A state war is when a country is at war with another state. So which country are we fighting with? Okay. Which country really? Yes, so we should
conclude.
Yes, we should go
Mr.
by
Richard,
what the law says.
Mr. Richard, as we conclude, I wanted to get a little bit of your idea on our economic standing. As we speak, about 25% of all Ugandans live below the poverty line, which is $1, about 3,000. And about 40 are basically poor. That means they can afford what to eat, but they cannot make that economic contribution. So how are you as the party planning on improving that? We have improved considerably from when you came in power.
That was my next question.
But how do we get to, because we also had an idea of attaining a middle income status, which has drastically failed. If anything, we are going down. So how do we make sure that the economy is working for the people?
I believe we are doing better, and we should do better than what we are doing.
How is the question is how?
Through embracing government development programs, commercialization of agriculture. That's what the president has been emphasizing at, to the extent of even holding regional meetings. I think that was in 2018. He traversed the country, sensitizing the citizens about transformation from subsistence agriculture, because most of these poor people, the ones who live in absolute abject poverty. Many of them have huge chunks of land. Yes, but we need to redirect them.
But the program's money even get lost along the way. 100 billion for Emyoga funds wouldn't say there's something to show for that. We have 490 billion for the parish models, which does not show anything right now.
Why do you rush to say there is nothing?
There's nothing to show. What do you show? Who are the beneficiaries of that? Who has come to say that I've benefited from this and I am better because there was a Myoga or parish model? How many people have had operation wealth creation?
You need to carry out that research. I have seen. I was watching like a certain MP here in Kampala. Is it Kaziwe Bashir supervising those Myoga projects? So, while you talk about like they have not benefited. So these projects go on at a process in stages. So that's why the development experts, those people who study development studies, keep on advising us on the approaches we should use to get rid of the scourge. It has been a global issue. It was among the Millennium Development Goals. It failed. It is among the Sustainable Development Goals. It is still failing because we are seeing several countries living we have even failed states. Haiti, South Sudan, those are listed among failed states. Majority of the citizens are poor. Like we have had policies. Bonabagagawale, is it Operation Wealth Creation, NADS, Myoga. Now today, the president will be launching the parish development model, in which billions of money will be injected at parish level. So,
as you make your concluding remarks,
yes,
in at least 1 minute.
Yes, the development experts keep on advising us. It is not, you see, development is not an issue. We will wake up today and solve it in 1 year or 2 years. That's why even the entire globe has development programs. We have a development plan, Vision 2040, Vision 2080. So those are in accordance with the development perspectives of these development experts who study development studies. I believe we have done better as the NRM since it's
your party shots, Mr. Byamukama.
It's coming in power because there is no country in the whole world that hasn't had poor people. In America, over 14% of its population live in abject poverty. Abject poverty. So 14% of the population in America is equivalent to 40 million. That is the population of Uganda. So the population of Uganda in the United States live in abject poverty. So the people you see,
and 41 of ours live in poverty also.
Not 41. So the people you see in Uganda, when you go to United States, they sleep on the streets. They have nothing to eat. So that in China we have neglected states. So that is a global issue. But I believe the NRM has done better, like through its sensitization programs, UPE, like people should get knowledge. Like a certain caller was emphasizing, like, I'm not a product of UPE. You need to visit Kagadio, ask anyone in Kagadio, because I'm a product, myself, I'm a product of universal primary education since my primary.
That's what you were saying. He says you look like a product of UPE.
Obviously. So,
thank you so much.
The achievements of NRM for God and my country.
Thank you so much. Mr. Byamukama, what are those things you enjoy doing in your free time?
In my free time? Obviously, I try much of reading. Yeah, reading books, you know. So, I'm a fan of soccer. So that is it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Byamukama.
I involve myself in reading, getting to know more about what is transpiring. That is
in Uganda.
Yeah, that is most of what I do.
Thank you so much.
Not only in Uganda, but the entire world.
Thank you so much.
Because what I have been discussing, it is not about Uganda. I have given you aspects transpiring the entire globe. So
we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much, our viewers who have been on, who have commented, and all those who have shared. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the show. We've had Mr. Byamukama Richard in the studios today. I am Princess Luwede Lillian with Roger Surihawe. Have a blessed day. See you tomorrow.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Schools are open. Parents, guardians, have you prepared your adolescents that are pregnant and mothers for school? The government has given us national guidelines to assist with the responsibility of sending these girls back to school. Let us help to provide them with a safe, productive, and friendly environment for their learning. They are still our children living among us in our communities. Their pregnancies, becoming mothers before adulthood, affects them, their community, and our nation. All children have a right to education. Now, let's take them back to school because completing their primary and secondary school education is very important to their future careers, personal development, and being productive citizens of our nation. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson, and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views, and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.